Hello. Hey, Dee Dee, how are you? You're the first. You're my everything. Isn't that a song? You might be the only one in here tonight. It's late. How are you? It's good to see you. I've watched a couple of your videos just to let you know. I'm not completely MIA. London, hello. Heads up, 7 Up. How are you, sweetie? Good to see you guys. So, yeah, I've been busy. Hi, Jamie. I've been busy working, same routine. I'm fine being the only. You're my first, you're my last, you're my everything. Black Eagle, how are you? Black Eagle, have you gone down the rabbit hole of foodie beauty? Yeah, so listen, I must say that this not the foodie beauty community. I think it's like replacing one drug for another, right? I'm actually over. I'm so over all this drama bullshit in the community that I have been in. And you were one and done with that one. I'm just interested because she's MIA in Kuwait as far as not posting. I think after much speculation, I think, if she was killed, she was, because she said some nasty things over in a Middle Eastern country on a public live stream. She was on her way back to Canada. But we figured it out. I think that she's been suspended from YouTube for a week. But hey, if that's what it takes, and I'll tell you why I enjoy that community. There's another community I'm in also, which um I'm keeping hush about. Um, it's not drama. It's kind of like private stuff, sort of, kind of that I can relate to. But there's no fighting. There is absolutely no fighting, and as crazy as Foodie Beauty is, there's no fighting in the chats. There's no one going real life. Um, there's people who do commentary who um, are quite intriguing and intelligent, and one of them in particular should be a life coach. So I enjoy their content. And again, I think it's something I'm just following her because she is in the Middle East, making a complete fool out of herself, and has claimed to convert to Muslim. So you've not been around lately, lots of babysitting. So what did I miss? I'm not excuse me, I'm not around a lot either, believe it or not. I might post here and there or comment here and there, but um I don't know. I want to make 2023 more positive changes. I think last year was a bad year for a lot of people. Um with everything, still the COVID, the inflation rates, um, it's just working, not working. Um, so I don't know. And I'm looking forward to the new YouTube terms of service rules, which I don't know. They always come out with their rules and then you think they're going to crack down, and they don't. They don't. So, anywho, how are you guys doing? Yes, last year can stay in the past. Heads up, he's good. Thank you for asking. Hey, JDS, how are you? Black Eagle, I'm sure they shut that channel down El Pronto. Yeah, I think Foodie Beauty is just suspended for a week. She made some homophobic remarks And she's been deleting a lot of her live streams. Now, this is for those of you who don't know her, she's got like 90 point something subscribers. Um, but she's a train wreck. She's an absolute train wreck. But again, we tend to go into chats to converse and get to know other people. And I've met the nicest people. I mean, literally, there's no fighting. And that community has been around for a long time, a long time. But of course, if it gets to that point, I'm out. But um, it's it's kind of like a breath of fresh air. It's not the same crap over and over, um, and it's interesting. So I've been busy organizing family history documents, grandpa's art for an auction. Cool. Played a fun card game tonight with my ladies' church group and had dinner. That's nice. Only pop on YouTube when I have something to talk about. Yeah, so I'm not going to make this a long live stream because I've made a commitment that to get better sleep this year, and I have been, even though I've only started I think after Christmas, I started going to sleep. Regardless, even if I wasn't tired, shut off the computers, read a book, lay down, rest, and eventually I fall asleep. But I've been doing good at that, and I think sleep's important. So it's boring talking to a screen when people don't chat with me or each other. Yeah, Dee Dee, sometimes you got to come up with subjects. You can't always depend on your chat. Um, so you got to come up with subjects or another topic, change the topic perhaps. London, exciting night here. Had an hour to reconstruct a hem for a beauty walk. No pressure. Beauty walk, like a fashion show? Yes, we all need more sleep. Yes, especially with these studies that they're linking it to dementia. No, thank you. No, thank you. And I was notorious for falling asleep while my computer was still on, while my earbud was still in my ear, listening to like a crime interrogation and then having bad dreams. Yeah, so I'm actually even taking my earbuds out at night. A pageant. Oh, that sounds wonderful. I used to sew. Yeah, DD, right? No thanks to dementia. And I'm glad the holidays are over. They were they were so tough this year with the loss of my mom, and God, I couldn't wait for them to be over with. And I was in the store the other day and saw all the Valentine's candy out, and um, there's always going to be reminders because even on Valentine's, I always brought something to my mom. But the holidays were rough. Those were tough. Off with the blue light at night. I'll tell you, the other night I was mandated at work, and what really got me upset was I went into work as a favor on my day off, and I got mandated. And I came home and I was so tired, and I had to go to work the next morning. I was so exhausted. I fell right to sleep, and then my alarm went off, and I was like, what? I just went to sleep. No, no. I slept very well. Deep, deep sleep. That when that alarm went off, I'm like, no way. I just fell asleep. This can't be. This can't be. But oh, JDS, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're rough. They can be tough for a lot of people. Bye, Dee Dee. Have a good night. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for being my number one. You've been listening to Abraham Hicks on YouTube, helping with depression and meditating. I meditate, London. I follow Sadhguru. If you go on Google Isha, the Isha Foundation, I follow him, his meditation. And I think, just last week, I think, or a few days ago, I uploaded one of his videos on lying to oneself, which I really enjoyed that one. Where, and he says that we shouldn't be in the business of figuring out other people's lies because that will take a lifetime, which is true. So we have to be true to ourselves and not lie, be honest with other people, but to be honest with ourselves, most importantly. So I like him. They're like pep talks, his philosophy. I enjoy his philosophy. Is Abraham Hicks he must be a psychologist. Let me look him up. Abraham Hicks. Oops. I'm on the dashboard. Hold on. YouTube. Abraham Hicks. Oh, that looks like a woman. 740,000 subscribers. Oh, all Abraham Hicks materials, recordings workshop by Esther Hicks. Okay, her About Me section describes it, but doesn't say what its content, what it pertains to. It's got a website. Leading edge teachings. Workshops. Ooh, daily law of attraction quotation. I believe in the law of attraction. Is he a philosopher or was? She was the foundation of The Secret. Oh, okay. Yeah, I will, London. Positive affirmation. Abraham is our altar speaker. The book, The Secret. Okay. Got it. I read The Secret a long time ago. I should read it again. Yeah, but that has to do with the law of attraction, which, yeah. Hey, my crazy life, how are you? Let me get her link. Abraham Hicks. All right, if anybody wants to check her out, I'm going to drop her link. Abraham Hicks, Law of Attraction. Okay, thanks for that. Crazy Life, how are you? Happy New Year. And she's funny. Oh, good. Okay, I like funny. I so believe in. I believe in whatever you put out is what you get back. There's good karma and there's bad karma. So whatever you throw out into the universe is what you get back. I totally believe in that. You do the right thing and right things happen. You don't do the right things and not so right things happen. Yeah. Attraction, not just of mates, but all things. Yeah, exactly, London. And, I think the start of a new year is also, start for what I call, because someone mentioned this to me, um, instead of resolution, reinvention. And I like that. I like that a lot, to reinvent ourselves. So it's something that I am going to focus on this year. And like I said, so far, it's like having a vision board, and I'm basing it on what I can control and what I can't control. So things in my life that I can't control, like my own thoughts, my own feelings, um, things I can't control, the weather, other people's opinions. But I put it on like a vision board. So I put it on my community page yesterday, I think. And I printed that picture out and I have it on my mirrors in my bedroom and in my bathroom as a reminder, for things I can and cannot control in life. And you can add to it as well. You can take away from it. So let me get to my comments. Okay. Freezing my butt cheeks off. I'm not built for winter. I'm not either. Thanks, crazy. I hate the winter. I hate it. I used to get, all right, my seasonal depression would start like in March years ago. Then the older I got, it started earlier. Started in February. Last year, it started in January. And this year, it literally started, I want to say, well, it was tough because it was the holidays and our family has been grieving. I want to say by the beginning of December. As soon as the cold weather started, I was like, I can't take it. I can't take this anymore. You love that I write my girls' notes on the mirrors. Oh, that's so sweet. I used to write notes to my daughter in her school lunches that I used to pack for her. I used to write like daily affirmations, age appropriate, of course, when she was little. But yeah, so let me get to that. Let me show you that picture. Community. Okay. Let me share my screen. Uh, all right. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. So now this was just an example. Like I said, you can change it, you can add to it, and I do very well with visuals. So this helps me a lot. So, um, okay, I cannot control. So on the outside are the things I cannot control. So one of them, let me get to the, hold on. Okay, other people's mistakes. All right. I cannot control other people's mistakes, what other people think or do. And those are givens, but when you have them written down like that, it's more tangible for me anyway. Other people's opinions, right? Um, because a lot of times when we, especially online, when we see other people's opinions, they kind of pop out of us and we almost feel like it comes across as a fact, right? And I've done that. And I have to remind myself that they're just opinions, okay? Um, I can't control the future, the weather, how others respond or react. Right, I'm down at the bottom, so I'm at like 5 o'clock now. Um, if people like or dislike me, I can't control that. I can't control the past. I can't control people's motives. And I can't control what happens around me. But what I can control is my attitude, the choices I make, asking for help, which I am, um, which I wasn't good at, but I'm getting better at that, asking for help. My beliefs and my values, I can control. My words, I can control. The way I treat others, I can control. My boundaries. My boundaries is something I'm working on. I started working on that, I think, the end of November. I started creating boundaries, being adaptable to changes, how I express myself, my thoughts and actions. I can control where I put my time and energy, and I can control how I respond and the way I treat others. One thing I do have to work on a lot is how I express myself. That is a biggie for me. Um, so all right, for example, if someone hurts you, who has like a hard time being honest and saying that really hurt me? Um, Either in your real life or maybe online, but mostly in my real life. Like if I feel hurt by someone's words, not just their actions, I have a hard time. I've learned as I become older, and I used to be very expressive. Now I just keep things in, and I don't get it. It's almost, I used to think, well, yeah, it is part of wisdom. You learn to let go of things that just don't matter. But these are people who matter to me. So that I have to work on. Jamie, have you been sick? It hurts the Norco. What happened? Ooh, you had the screw put in my bone graft for an implant? What did you have done, Jamie? So yeah, so that's what I'm working. That's one thing. And again, you can do these for kids too. Look up vision boards. This is probably too advanced for young kids, but you can make it age appropriate and just look up vision boards. Um, and a lot of people do well with pictures, so you can do them age appropriate. Yeah, heads up. I think it's a good idea. And I'm really working at this, which is unbelievable because one thing that I'm not good at is, well, I procrastinate a lot. So, and I think that's due to fear um, or the unknown, or I don't know. I don't know why I procrastinate with certain things. Um, but I'm actually sticking to this. So let's just hope. And there are a lot of things like last year I wanted to get into, like reading certain books. I even bought a grief handbook, workbook, um, to help me through grief. I couldn't even do it. I couldn't even do it. So I procrastinated with that. I want to do it, and I'm going to really put an effort into that as well. But again, I think with the holidays and everything came so quick, um, that I just wanted to block out even grief as much as I could. Hi, Jenny. Are you back from where did you go? Taiwan? Good to see you. Procrastination has been my downside. Yeah, grief is daunting. Yeah, I don't like grief. I don't like it at all. I never felt so with the holidays. I, it's hard to explain. I couldn't even keep myself busy and step out of my own way. You know, the stores were closed. I chose not to work only because I knew it would be too difficult. Um, but I couldn't even get out of my own way on the holidays. So it was like waking up and just wishing the day away very quickly, very quickly. And a lot of crying, a lot of crying. Oh, London, I'm so sorry. Your husband was killed 5 years ago. My head's finally coming out of the dark. Some days harder than others. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I lost my husband too a long time ago, long time ago. And I don't want to disappoint you, but it took me more than 5 years. Um, the denial part of it was really long. Um, I would say I was in denial a good 2, almost 3 years, and then and he wasn't killed. It was, it was a sudden death. Um, and it took me many, many years to accept it. And acceptance doesn't mean, because I read part of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's book again on death and dying. Um, and it's not that you have to accept what happened, but you have to accept that death is part of life. So I was in this angry stage, and, you know, angry being, I'm never going to accept this, because I didn't understand what accepting was. All these years, I thought she meant accepting that the one you love so very much is gone. And you can never accept that. But you have to learn to accept that death is part of life. It's something we all will face. And being an untimely death, I had to work through my feelings, without feeling I have to accept it. Once I worked through my feelings, of his loss, then it was easy for me to accept that, yes, death is part of life. Oh, your husband was murdered? I think the killer finally going to jail helped. He visits in my dreams, but I can't imagine losing my mom. Oh, yeah, I've had some dreams of my mom already. They're nice. They're nice dreams. Well, I hope, London, I hope that the killer is going to prison for a very long time. I can't imagine. Oh no, my recovering addict son was fired today from his longest running job. I don't know how to feel about it. Every time I feel like we're one step ahead, he takes 2 steps back, and it breaks me. Did he relapse? I'm so sorry. I understand. Yeah. And these, again, are the things we can't control. I went through it with my son, but it was when he relapsed, he would lose his job in an instant. In an instant, everything would come crashing around him. Everything, his housing, his job, everything, everything. Were the circumstances? You don't have to answer my crazy life, but was it related uh, to his addiction, or did he just mess up? It's so hard because we want the best for our kids, right? Even if I don't hear from my son for a few days, I go into panic mode. He's been in recovery. He's doing really good. And, we all have Find Me on our iPhones. Our locations are on. And I don't tend to look at his locations hardly ever. But I did the other night because I hadn't heard from him. And he was home. So that was that was relief. But you always worry. And then I checked it in the morning and he was at work. So, he did a couple of weeks ago when his uncle unalived himself. But according to him, he got himself straight. But you know how it goes. You can never believe a word. Right. Yeah, that's like my son. After when my mom died, he relapsed that next day. And I had a feeling. I had a feeling he would. And it was awful. It was awful. I'm dealing with the loss of my mom and then his friend calling me and saying he's nowhere to be found and he's been missing for so long, and it was the worst feeling. And I kept saying that he's gone, he's dead. But luckily, we all networked and found him, and he chose to go into recovery. It wasn't like we made him, but it's hard. I'm not gonna lie, you know um, you can talk to them till you're blue in the face, but the bottom line is they've got to want that help. He says no, and that his boss was being an a-hole. But you and I both know much how we can anything that they say. Yeah, I've heard it all too. Um, but my son has had a job for a long time now, and they've been very good to him. I will say, because when he did relapse twice with this job, they supported him. He was honest with them, and even when he went into treatment for a few months, he had his job when he came back. So there was a saving grace, but he knows um, that was a gift, basically, to have his employer support him through this, through his recovery, and when he relapsed. But it's pretty hard if you relapse. It's pretty hard to go to work and be a functional addict. I mean, I've heard of functional alcoholics, and I watched an episode of Intervention the other night. Was it Intervention or it was another channel? And this mother was describing her son as a functional addict, and he was on heroin. And I'm like, no such thing, no such thing. How can you? Unless this video was made before fentanyl came out, but I have a hard time. No, it wasn't. I don't think. I have a hard time believing that you can shoot up drugs and go to work and no one and have no problem. It's hard. And hopefully where he lost his job, he'll take something away with it that I think he might know deep down inside he messed up. My crazy life, maybe he's ashamed to tell you, that he screwed up, but he has to live with himself. And like that video I uploaded the other day on lying to oneself, he's got to be honest with himself. And that's part of recovery. So you can stop using drugs, but to be in recovery, you have to work recovery. You just can't say you're in recovery. And you have to like reinvent yourself and recognize your faults and your mistakes and work on them and make amends with people. Um, and that's a process. It's a long process. Unless he really uses. Yeah, Jenny, I don't think there's such thing as an occasional user anymore. His plans are never set. How old is he, if you don't mind, Crazy Life? Yeah, Jenny, it is. It's a very long haul. It's awful. And my son's been going through this for years, and he even would say to me, "Mom, I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of living like this." And I know he's tired. We're all tired, but I know he's more tired. It's as a family we go through hell, but I know he's going through it worse than we are because he has to live it and work at it. And um, he's been in recovery for a while now, and um, he did slip up recently, but not with drugs. But he went to a casino, and he was honest with me. I didn't ask him. We were just talking one day, and he shared it with me, which I think is important because I've noticed he's being more open with me without me asking him or badgering him like I used to. Like, do you still have your job? Do you still, I just wanted to make sure he was okay. But I've backed off of that. And and he shared that with me. But instead of going to a drug, he went which he went to gambling. Um, but he reached out to somebody during that relapse of gambling. Um, it could have been a lot worse. It was bad enough, but it could have been a lot worse. But the fact that he reached out to somebody that was able to talk him to leave, you know, come back home, get to a safe place. So I think that's a big factor in recovery is being honest. And if it's not being honest with your mom, whether it's a sponsor or a friend, um, I think that's an important component in recovery. Reaching out and talking to you is big. Yeah, it is. And he's always opened up to me, but like I said, it was almost like I had to force it out of him, because I wanted to stop worrying. I wanted the weight off of my shoulders. I wanted to truly know, are you really in recovery? Are you really okay? But I'd say within the past year or less, he comes to me, um, which is a positive change that I've seen without me even asking, without calling him, without asking him any questions. We could be just driving, him to the train station or whatever, and he'll just open up. So it's a huge thing. It's been a long time, a long time. And for him to do that um, gives me hope, gives me a lot more hope. Yeah, Jenny's support groups are important. Surround yourself with people like me and others, even in your real life support groups who are going through what you're going through. And, again, the fact that when they lie, the biggest thing is they're lying to themselves, so um, it's not going to change anything for the better for them. They really, I'm sure they get to a point like my son did, where they were tired of lying, and who wants to get fired from their job, right? So it's easier to say my boss was an asshole. It's much easier to say, place the blame, but we have to learn to take accountability for our own actions. And all of us, including your son. Today's drugs are more addictive, more dangerous than when I was young. Yeah. Oh, crazy life. If you're not in a support group, please get to one. You can get to a lot of them online. Um, and even an AA meeting. You're welcome to go to the open meetings in AA where those struggling with substance use disorders, including, alcohol as well, and illicit drugs or prescription drugs, um, just listen in on those meetings as well. And then there's Al Anon. Um, there's one in New England called Learn to Cope. They have a website and they have online meetings on certain days. It's definitely easier for him to put the blame on everyone else instead of on himself. Yeah, it's a direct result of him not getting into aftercare. That's the thing, this stint in detox, or the 30 days, it's not enough. 6 months is not enough. um my son, at one point last year when he relapsed, he knew it was after 6 months being in aftercare. Once he was out of a structured environment, he would relapse. And he knew, he said straight to me, and this is years off and on of this. This wasn't like he just started, becoming an addict. This has been years and years of this roller coaster ride for us. But when the the fentanyl came out, it got worse. It just got worse. It was harder to keep him in recovery. His periods of recovery were shorter. But he said to me, I know I need at least a year, and he committed himself to that. So, but that took him a long time. And by the grace of God, he's still alive. Rehab 30 days doesn't help. Recovery is a lifelong process, but you have to get into sober living homes, halfway homes, where there is structure, there's rules. You're held accountable. Okay, they drug test weekly or more than weekly if they're suspicious. So they hold you accountable. So when you're on your own after going through 30 days, there's no one there to hold you accountable. And that's when that mindset of one more time, and I can stop, one more time. They just need longer treatment. It's a disease. It's like going in for cancer or any disease and thinking in 30 days, you're going to be out of the woods. It's not like that. Yeah, Jamie, I'm so sorry. I know you lost your sister. There's a find the channel. Texas Picture Documentaries. Hold on. Give me 1 second. It's called Texas Picture Documentaries. And they have parents who are talking who just recently, in 2022, lost their child. And they also cover impaired driving, texting, and drinking while driving. And my daughter was hurt when she was in high school from an impaired driver that was texting. But let me just show you one of these videos. I haven't seen this. Let's check this one out. Let me know if you can hear it. Just put a thumbs up if you. All right, I know what I'm doing wrong. Hold on. Stop screen, present, share. It's Chrome. Okay. All right, this should work. Thumbs up if you can hear it.
Stuff like that. Yeah, just a great household of kids and two crazy parents that get right with them. So, but that's how it was. It was just joyous. We had all four of our kids. We had two in college, one getting ready to enter high school, and Jade was going to the fifth grade. It was my baby Jade's 10th birthday. We were celebrating her 10th birthday. But we're having a great time. And after the party, we were coming home. And we were probably about 5 minutes away from home. And we were at the red light. We were just talking in regular conversation. And Jade and my son was in the back seat. And Jade was sitting behind me. And the light turned green. So I proceeded to travel down the route that I've traveled a million times. So, and by that time, I heard my wife like scream out my name. And that's when I looked to the left and I saw like this white truck. And I couldn't say no. I go, oh, Jesus, like that. And it hit us. And I began to spin around, spin around, spin around. And it came to a rest in the middle of the street. And so I knew Jade was behind me. So my nickname for her was Queen. So I automatically said, just, real nonchalantly, because I was okay. I was good. I go, Queen, you good? And she didn't say nothing. So I turned around. And when I looked at her, her head was in my son's lap. She was laying in my son's lap. And it was kind of strange because I go, well, I know she's not sleeping. And she was turning blue. So that's when I began to get hysterical. And then the guy that hit us came up to the driver's side where I was sitting. So mind you, I was pinned in the car. I couldn't move. And he's reeking of alcohol and he's staggering and his speech is slurred. And his friend is throwing beer bottles into the woods. And by that time, while my baby's dying in the back seat of the car, and my wife's fighting, telling her to hold on. And this went on for about 5, 6 minutes. And I looked at her leg. Her leg was snapped in half. And both eyes were closed, but one was barely open. And she was still alive, but she was breathing very faint, very weak. And I heard the ambulance, EMS, and the fire trucks. I heard them coming, and I heard life flight. So a few minutes ago, I heard life flight coming. So, man, and I was saying, come on, Jay, please just fight. And she was trying, but she couldn't hold on. So I saw her look at me. She kind of tried to turn her head a little bit, and a tear rolled down her eye. And she took like 2 short breaths. And then all the fluids and stuff started coming out of her nose. So I'd never seen that before. So I didn't know what was going on. I was just, screaming and going hysterical. And by that time, Life Flight landed and they got her and they put her in the helicopter. So I thought that I was praying to God that they were going to like bring her back, or save her.
So there's short videos. Let me see.
I'm a New York hotel. I'm looking for someone who needs a weekend in the city. You hungry?
And I'll tell you something. These are sad, but they're helpful. They're hard to watch sometimes because it's our greatest fear that, you know, we're going to lose our loved one to addiction. Um, but there's always a positive message from these videos, from these parents who have lost a child. Um, so that's why I listen to them, because they still bring me hope. Yeah, Jenny. I literally brought my son into the mountains when we were living in Hawaii. It was such a secluded place, and I'm like, what better place in paradise than to be away from everyone? But you know what he did? He ran down the mountain. You know, you can bring him up the mountain, but I couldn't keep him up there, and he ran down the mountain. So it definitely is something that they have to find within themselves, um, and it's hard.
Emily growing up was always very independent, always really sassy, always marched to the beat of her own drum. She was always like challenging, but always like really fun to be around. She was always witty, always had the good comebacks, making everyone laugh. Her freshman year adjusting, she had some trouble and she started using hard drugs. And we had to send her to rehab in the middle of the school year. And she came through that good. And then stayed off of the hard drugs as far as I knew. And then her sophomore year, she started smoking marijuana again. And then it led to the synthetic drug that she started smoking. She was pretty like chill and relaxed and calm in her life and seemed happier. And then all of a sudden her mood had flipped to where she had anxiety and she wasn't able to make it through a school day. She was having to come home in the middle of the day. She was having a really hard time even getting out of bed. I remember she wouldn't even make it to the bathroom to throw up. She was throwing up every day, but she was just opening her window and sticking her head out the window and throwing up from her bedroom. And it was like black chunks of stuff. And she wasn't really eating. She wasn't getting along with me. She wasn't getting along with her boyfriend at the time. It was a Friday night, and my husband and I were at work, and we got a phone call from her boyfriend. And he said, Emily's not acting right. And I said, well, give her migraine medicine, let her go to sleep. He said, okay. And then he called back again and said, she's like making up some words and she's not talking right and she's bouncing over into the walls. I had my son come over and check because he was closer. He's older than Emily. And I had him come over and check, and he called me and said, no, she's fine. She's sleeping. I don't know what he's talking about. And then it took only about 10 minutes later until he called me back and said, you need to come home now. She's screaming at the top of her lungs, saying words that aren't really words, not making sense. She's banging into everything. She's throwing stuff. And she's going to hurt herself. And I said, you need to hang up with me and call 911. When I got here, he was still on the phone with 911. She was again back in bed because she had been doing this on and off since he had talked to me. Like every 10 minutes, she was getting up out of bed and having a fit and then passing out and then getting back up and having another psychotic fit and then passing out again. When they came in the house, it was 5 constables. It was 4 men and 1 woman. And, they're all bigger, older men and the woman. And the 2 EMTs coming in and they roll her over in her bed and try to say, Emily, do you know where you are? And she just started screaming words that they didn't make sense, just noises, or repeating her boyfriend's name over and over and over, saying she didn't want to wake up for school. They couldn't get her to calm down. They couldn't get her to respond to them, to what they were saying. She started fighting them, and the EMTs were trying to give her a sedative and trying to get her into the ambulance. And it took all 5 of the constables to physically hold her down, 1 on each limb and 1 on her head, restraining her in her bed so that they could give her a shot to sedate her. When we got to the hospital, they had obviously seen things like this before. They labeled it as a drug overdose. They said basically they were going to keep her there, and when she woke up in the morning, she'd have to go to a rehab center or psychiatric rehab center. And at that point, I was mostly just angry and scared, but not scared because I didn't think she could die. At that time, I didn't think that she could actually die from it. As the minutes went by and then the hours, and in the hospital, she stayed combative, and she was biting the ER nurses, thrashing around in the bed. They had to have her tied down to the bed. And it was like a scene out of a horror movie. I didn't even think could happen in real life. I didn't think, you see those movies and horror films or thrillers, and they look so fake, but here it was happening to my daughter. I I remember during her calm moments of like singing lullabies and just trying to calm her down, but nothing was working. Finally, the doctors came in and said that they had to sedate her completely, like they had to put her into a coma for her own safety. We weren't allowed to talk to her in the room. We weren't allowed to talk in the room. We weren't allowed to touch her. It was a really dark room. She couldn't have any kind of outside stimulation. And she was like that for about 2 days. And that's when they showed us the pictures of the scans of her brain. And they told us that the black parts were dead tissue. It was like 70% of her brain was black. They told us that the tissue that was alive, that was still gray matter, was being killed by the black areas. And they told us if she did survive, she wouldn't get off the respirator because one of the areas in her brain that was affected was the part that is your natural instinct to breathe. And they told us that she wouldn't be able to move her arms and legs. They told us she wouldn't be able to eat on her own ever again. My dad was in the room with us, and he asked if she would know that we were in the room with her, and they said no, she wouldn't even know that we were there. She would just be in the same state that she was, asleep on her respirator and never conscious again. And they told us to really talk about it and think about it, of what Emily's life quality would be. And we talked it over with our friends and family and knew Emily wouldn't want to live like that. I knew I wouldn't want to live like that. And it seemed cruel and selfish to me to keep her alive like that. So on the Sunday morning, with all of our family there, we removed the respirator and took her off life support. And the only thing that they kept her on was morphine to help her comfort level. And she just held on. She didn't die like they said. She kind of was moving a little bit, but not really. As the hours went by, I mean, this probably 10 hours later, and she was still alive. And they said that now it could take a few days, it could take 5 days. They weren't sure. I dozed on and off through the night, and at one time, like early morning, maybe 4 a.m, I rolled over and there were nurses and doctors standing around her. And I stood up and her eyes were open. And I was just, the first thing is, "I love you, Emily." And she whispered back, "I love you too." And that was just like the most amazing moment ever.
The first few times were good, and then I started to get headaches and I was throwing up. Yeah, headaches and throwing up, and really bad anxiety. Yeah, I would wake up in the middle of the night, and like have to smoke it. But I had an alarm on my phone, that would wake me up.
She started therapy 6 hours a day. It was physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. At that point, she had a feeding tube that she had to have in her stomach to be able to eat. She couldn't eat by mouth yet. She couldn't use the bathroom yet. She had to wear adult-sized diapers, or as they called them, briefs. She couldn't dress herself. The aides would have to come in and do everything for her. She was just laying in the hospital bed. She couldn't even sit up on the edge of the bed by herself. And from there, they taught her how to eat again, how to swallow food. She had to learn how to sit up on the edge of the bed, how to be able to sit in a wheelchair.
I cannot be alone, sadly. Like what? Like any 16-year-old or 20-year-old would not like to be in my situation. Being in a wheelchair, having no friends, like not being able to hang out with anybody. Yeah. Just having family. I mean, yeah. What else can I say?
Being confined to a wheelchair, losing your independence, losing all of your friends, losing everything, your future. There's no drug that's worth losing your future over.
Like the high isn't worth it, but if you do, like this is what's going to happen to you. This or death. I mean, like those are both not good outcomes.
It's just a really dangerous drug, and you're playing with your life, and you're playing with your family's lives, and it's not worth that.
Yeah, so I remember this video. She was smoking spice, which at one point was available in convenience stores here anyway in the United States, which is now banned. But it's incredible the way the mom described the blackness in her brain, and I thought she'd never, like they were going to have to pull the plug. I'll do one more. Do you ever see those videos that pop up called the honor walk, or people who have donated their organs? Those are pretty powerful too. Jennifer McDonald, hi honey. No, you haven't done anything. I was wondering, Pink, which form of therapy would you most recommend? Group or one-on-one? Online or in person? A combination of all. If you're first starting, and this is just what I would recommend. Well, I first started going to meetings, support group meetings. For me, for my son's addiction, and then I also started. I did them all. Then I also started seeing a therapist one-on-one. So anything that I could do. And then I also started, when I went, and also now I do online meetings, which became popular with COVID. So if you can't get to a meeting for any reason in person, you can go to the online meetings. Yeah, it was amazing, that story. Okay, so let's,
Research shows nostalgia can help you remember ads. So customize and save with Liberty Mutual.
They call me Koala Man. It's my mission to clean up this town.
Because I've educated myself that my daughter.
This is a good one. This is a good video. 7 minutes.
So my daughter was 25 and she was a loving mother. She was beautiful. She spent so much time with her kids. She walked her daughter to school every day. She volunteered at the school. She had lunch with her daughter every day. She was just a lovely person to be around. And her whole life revolved around her children and making sure that her daughters had everything they needed. My daughter was in high school whenever I noticed that she did have a drug problem. One morning at 6:30, there was a knock at my front door. I opened the door and my 16-year-old daughter, who was supposed to be asleep in bed, was standing on my front porch without any clothes on. And I could tell there was something definitely wrong with her. She was high on some type of drugs. So I went into panic mode and decided she needs help, and it's help that I cannot give her. She needs drug rehab. So that day I said, I'm going to find some place to take you to get the help you need because we have a huge problem. That next day she was at Sundown Ranch in Athens, Texas for drug rehab. And I left her there for a month. I just dropped her off in the middle of nowhere. I would go visit her every weekend, but I knew she needed help that I couldn't give her. So after the month, she came back to Austin. She was doing outpatient rehab. So we went every night for outpatient therapy. She changed high schools, and I thought she was okay. I mean, she played on the varsity soccer team. She played competitive kickball. It's a girls' sport, but it's very competitive in Austin. She graduated high school. She met somebody, and she proceeded to have children. She seemed like your normal, everyday young mother, not somebody who had a box by their name that could have died of a drug overdose. I mean, I saw my daughter as cured, which obviously that was very naive of me to think that somebody that had done prescription drugs, she was taking Xanax in high school, is what she was, bars is what she called it. Her life, right before she died of a drug overdose, I had no idea she was taking drugs. I thought she was cured in high school. So it was February 15th, 2016. I received a phone call at 1:00 in the afternoon from my counterpart, the other grandmother. And she said, something's happened to your daughter. I said, that's okay. What hospital is she at? Because the two other phone calls I'd gotten was your daughter had a seizure. They've taken her to the hospital. She said, she's not at a hospital. The paramedics have been back there in the house for an hour now. They won't let us go back there. And they said we needed to call you. My 5.5-year-old granddaughter got up that morning and the baby was crying. So she was trying to get her mother to breastfeed Mackenzie. And Layla found my daughter on the floor. She was unresponsive and could not get up. Layla said she tried waking her mom up, but she wouldn't. She was blue. So she ran next door and had her grandmother call for help. So my 5.5-year-old granddaughter found her mom dead on the floor. She died in 2016, so it's been 6.5 years. I've tried to, my daughter was a loving mother. She loved her two daughters. She made a horrible decision, and that decision cost her everything and shattered our lives. But what I've tried to work through in this grief, I embrace my grief because I love my daughter. I'm going to have great grief. And then I tried to find, like, how could this have happened to my daughter? I joined a group of moms and other people who've lost somebody to an overdose. And together we've worked through this. I now understand, because I've educated myself, that my daughter took a pill. She took a Xanax, and that Xanax contained fentanyl. And it was the fentanyl that killed my daughter, not the Xanax that she had taken 10 years ago and she ended up in rehab, but the Xanax with fentanyl that ended up killing her. And so now what I try to do is go out and advocate and educate others about the dangers of fentanyl. So if I can, get parents to understand that you can be a good parent and your child can still die, you need to educate yourself and then go get Narcan, because Narcan could save your child's life. I'm a firm believer that there are two things that are going to help the fentanyl crisis. The first one is education and mental health. People that have substance abuse disorders, they need help. It is a genetic and medical condition. If you get diabetes or heart disease from what you eat, we don't tell you, sorry, you're on your own. We spend millions, billions of dollars each year giving people medication for diabetes and heart disease. But yet somebody who has a substance use disorder, that many of them have prior mental health issues and they're trying to self-medicate, we tell them, sorry, you're on your own. You're out of luck. So we need to change that mindset and understand that it for what it is, it's a medical condition. And then we need to somehow get to these kids that are taking, just that one pill that their friend gives them. They don't have a substance disorder. They want a pill to either make themselves feel better, or maybe they want to be able to study better. So we need to somehow educate those people. I have to accept that my daughter has responsibility for her actions. The problem is that her actions have consequences that she didn't understand. She wasn't aware that there's a chance that this drug might have this new fentanyl in it. So she wasn't able to make an informed decision. It just happened to her. And my daughter took drugs in high school. She thought it would be okay. It didn't kill her before. So why would it kill her now? And somebody she knew gave her the drug. He hadn't died from taking the drugs. Why would she die from taking the drugs? When 9/11 happened, we all knew about it, right? There were these 3,000 deaths that just happened and our world changed forever. We have a 9/11 every 3 weeks and everybody's life goes on as it was before. It's not seen as a problem. And that's the problem. We as a country aren't taking this seriously. The federal government needs to declare fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction, because that's what it is. Very little of this drug can end up killing millions of people. And it could be accidentally, you come in contact with it, accidentally. We need to declare drug dealers terrorists. That's what they are. They're domestic terrorists because they're peddling a weapon of mass destruction. We invaded Iraq because we thought Saddam Hussein was hiding weapons of mass destruction. We went to Afghanistan to find the leader of the Taliban, which is the same as the drug cartels. And we invaded Pakistan, who was an ally of ours, and kidnapped Osama bin Laden and then executed him at sea. Right. So if we can do that for the weapons of mass destruction that changed our country, the least we can do is go to the border and work in partnership with the Mexican government to eradicate the 2 drug cartels that are killing Americans.
Mm-hmm. Call or text 988. What was that? No matter where you live in the U.S., you can easily access 24/7 emotional support. Call or text 988 or visit 988lifeline.org/chat to connect with a caring counselor. We're here for you. So that's was known as the Samaritans, but it's also the mental health hotline. It's just not for people who feel like they want to harm themselves. It's also a mental health hotline for anything that you can reach out to for resources and connecting with an actual counselor. The drug cartel is bigger and doesn't play with the legal rules. Right. But I think her point is, why isn't our government going after, because these drugs are coming through the border of Mexico. And if it's not the border, they come by water, the ocean. They need to crack down more. They need to put their resources, their money, as much as they did, like into 9/11. I mean, this is drugs of mass destruction. It's about just under 300 people who die every day from fentanyl poisoning. They don't even call it a drug overdose anymore. They call it fentanyl poisoning or fentanyl injured. My child was injured by fentanyl poisoning. I don't know what it's going to take. Government has too many hoops to jump through. That mother is amazing, Jenny, right? I mean, and that's what you need to take from that, is that through even these sad stories, there is hope, because you have to educate, listen to other parents who've gone through it. Even parents who have lost their child, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And these parents recently lost their children. This wasn't like, oh, some of them are as recent as August, this past August.
Have you ever spent hours online shopping for an item you want?
I know.
ModeSense is here to help you save.
So this is Joshua Gillahan, and he was my only child. He was only 14, and he was our world. I honestly can't comprehend why this is not an absolute national emergency. I don't know why we're not having press conferences from the White House, just like we did for COVID, regarding this fentanyl crisis. I don't know why on everyone's TV there's not a scrolling banner at the bottom, warning everyone that nothing is safe unless it comes from a pharmacy. I can't comprehend why a bigger deal is not being made of this situation. Really, we started having some issues, noticing some changes around the 7th grade. So he was about 12. And my husband, when him and his friends came home from being out and about, he just suspected something was weird because we had to go somewhere and my son ran upstairs real quick to put his backpack away, and that was kind of weird. So my husband wondered what was in the backpack, and he ended up finding some marijuana in the backpack. We had many talks even before this happened about drugs in general, and you have your path to choose, your choices make a difference, and all of that. Many talks. And so of course we started that again, and tried to do everything we could to explain to him why we were so upset. He really felt like pot wasn't that big of a deal. Marijuana, what's the big deal? It's all natural, blah blah blah. So we started having more talks, and of course keeping him under a tighter rein. We even started counseling, trying to figure out what was causing him to want to do self-medicate or what have you. So we did that for a long time, and then it was just a battle. It was a battle for a year and a half. We'd find it, he'd get in trouble. It was just kind of back and forth, on and on. I don't know really all the details yet, but at some point he apparently got some what he thought was Percocet, and we didn't find this out till after he passed away. And so I don't know if he did that because we were testing him for THC or what really happened. But one morning I was leaving to go on a business trip, and I walked up the stairs to say goodbye. And he didn't answer. And so I got closer, and I leaned down to kind of shake him and wake him up, and he was gone. And he had been gone for a long time. It was really cold. Oh my God.
This is actual video. Actual video.
I just walked up here to say goodbye, and I think he's dead. My husband was already at work, so first you're in disbelief. You're like, his room was always really cold, and we'd gotten a new AC system, and so at first I thought we just need to warm him up. Just crazy thoughts. But I knew he was gone. Where are you? I wish I would have done more. I so wish I would have joined these groups that I'm in now, so I could have shown him, you know, the young people that have died. You know, I didn't even realize, even as a parent, I didn't really realize the depths of it. And that's a lot of the guilt, that I have, is that we thought we had our problem under control, and I didn't let myself go to the next level. I mean, I literally was worried about him damaging his brain from marijuana. I never dreamed that he was going to take something that was going to kill him. My kid was not perfect, but he was a good kid. He was smart. He was good. He was loving. He was a good kid. And there are a lot of kids like him that are probably doing similar things, and their parents don't know it. They're thinking, not my kid. And everybody needs to understand that it can be your kid. If it was my kid, it could be anybody's kid. You have to do something. I figure, if I'm going to stay on this planet, then I don't want his death to be in vain. If we can save others from going through this, that's what I want to do.
Isn't that sad? But this is why I put the link to that. I put a link to that channel because it's important. It's hard to watch. It's so sad. That was actual footage of the mom going into her son's room, and but it's education. It's awareness. I think we should share these videos, and whatever we learn, teach other people. Um, my kids are adults, and I still have talks with them about even prescription drugs that, like, oh, I have anxiety. Oh, I have Ativan. My doctor prescribes it for me. And your kid's like, and the friend has a prescription bottle. You don't know if that came from the pharmacy, or if that person put a pill in there that she got from someone else, and she forgot, or he forgot it was in there. You know what I mean? It's just so damn risky. It's so risky. Hey, Star Wars. Hope you saw your poll. No, I'll check it out. How you doing? Hey, Lee. If only a mother's love could save these babies, we'd never lose another child. Right, right. There's nothing dramatic, Star Wars, about fentanyl and losing kids to fentanyl poisoning. But I think Star Wars, Miller, I think you need drama rehab. Not everything is drama. Yeah, Black Eagle's sister lost a nephew. Her sister went through it. And let's hope the government, so this channel, Texas Documentaries, they said that they had these videos up. They put a lot of the past, there's videos in there that are older, like distracted driving, like texting, and but they're reposting them because of fentanyl. And so it's a good start, especially if you don't know where to start getting educated, and learning, and instill in your kids. It took me a long time with my child, asking him, I always said to him, you can come to me with anything, Anything. If you feel like you're going to relapse, call mom. Call mom. I'm here for you. But I also look back and realize that I was kind of badgering him at the same time without knowing it, and it wasn't that I was passing judgment on him. It was just that I was so fearful of him losing his life that I was like a shadow to him, and I had to back off. I had to. And being there, badgering him in that way, wasn't helping him anyway. But I didn't know that at the time. Yeah, Jenny, I heard that. Yeah, a lot of times. What gets me is if this is killing so many people, you would think they're going to lose their clientele, so to say. You know, um, I just don't get it. I remember night after night searching for my child. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Luckily, your daughter's clean today. Thank God. I remember that, Black Eagle. Where was the 14-year-old getting it from? I'm not sure. I would think he probably got it from a friend. And if you don't think that these pills are in schools, think again. They're everywhere. Even the swanky suburbs, to the poverty level suburbs. They're everywhere. It doesn't discriminate. They're everywhere. It wore me down. Yeah, Black Eagle. I hear you. Lost your job over it. So, yeah, that's my advice. Start with, getting educated. Try, and you're going to hear people use words like junkie, and I hate that. They're labels. Labels belong in jars, not people. So, um, the proper terminology is substance use disorder. It's no longer addict. So, to say, my child is an addict, you would say, because that's a label and that hurts the person struggling. So you would actually say, I have a child who struggles with substance use disorder. So I think the more we educate people with that, people will recognize it more as a disease, which it is, than of a addict sounds more like a choice. And we all know, those of us who are educated, that most people who struggle with substance use, it started with a doctor, a prescription, a pain med. It's not like, a child wakes up and just starts searching the streets and chooses heroin or any opioids. It usually starts from a dentist or a doctor or prescription after surgery, postoperatively. So if you ever hear somebody, I've even spoken out to people in public who've used the word junkie. And I just re-educate them. And some of them were thankful, some of them didn't like it, but I know that they left thinking about it. The dealers use social media, the kids use it as well with a code. Snapchat is known for that. Wow, Clarissa. Is Snapchat doing anything about it? It's crazy. That's why it's important to educate and tell these kids, you will die. Not you can die, you will die. You will die. Yeah, my crazy light's close to impossible to know what the right thing is to do. And it's a helpless feeling. If you are familiar with the 12-step program, the first step, we are powerless. We are absolutely powerless. So, if your son can get into recovery, inpatient, it's a good start. And trust me, my son was in and out of recovery, out of programs. But I had hope. And that's what got me one step further. When he was in recovery, I felt he was safe. I was safe. I could sleep. And something would happen and he'd leave, or, and you just can only hope that they do the right thing. And do not, um, I don't believe in ultimatums like, if you don't stop, don't ever call me. I'm not paying your bills. I'm not going to feed you. Don't come to my house. I don't believe in that. I believe that you must be in your child's life, but you have to find a balance. You have to be in their life. They have to know that they are loved unconditionally. It's a balance because you don't want to be abused either. You have to set boundaries. But the old intervention when they first started that program on A&E, oh, if you don't go into treatment or stop using drugs, we're not going to pay your cell phone. Well, hell, no. I'm going to make sure my son has his cell phone so I can have contact with him. And all that will do is make their pain worse, because that's why they self-medicate. They're dealing with an issue you might not be aware of, but that's what they have to find within themselves and work on whatever problem they're dealing with. All right, I'll drop a link, but can I text it to you so I don't get a porn bomb? No, forget it. I'll put it in here. What time is it? I get 15 minutes. 2:15, and then I have to really go. So much for a short live. I really have to go at 2:15. I have to be brutally honest, but I get where you're coming from. Hey,
Hey, darling.
what's up?
Not much. Hey, everybody. Hi, Lee. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Black Eagle.
Hi. Good to see
Hi.
you.
Thanks for coming up. What's up?
Oh, not much, just I'm always up for this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
Black Eagle's in recovery herself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I've also been on the other side. As you know, I've walked a few miles in your shoes as well.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I would not wish that on anybody.
No, me either. Not even my worst enemy.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope. It's like an octopus. The tentacles can go off in so many different directions. And I think one of the worst things that, like for myself in recovery, when I start beating myself up, one of the sayings that we say is, pour me, pour me, pour me another drink. So you have to find that line of taking responsibility, being honest about your own substance abuse. Um, they say feel, deal, and heal. Um, but I'll tell you, I do. I carry a lot of guilt, for the fact that I passed on the gene of addiction to my children.
Mm-hmm.
But with recovery, I know with my twins, they're 23 now. They're into, partying and whatnot. And I just try to tell them, don't forget, on both sides, your dad and myself, you have addiction. And
Right.
but that conversation of you know you cannot make somebody get sober or get clean. It's just more powerful than that, and it's a hard realization to come to. But I'll tell you one thing, when you talk about the fact that no matter what, you're going to be there for your child. Well, he's not a child anymore, but
Right.
um that I get it. Because I'll tell you, I know with my daughter, she burned a lot of bridges. They're still burned. There's still
Hmm.
many people that don't trust her around them.
Right.
Um,
That's a huge issue. Yes, because even when one is in recovery, there's a residual with the family of not trusting. Um,
right, right,
but my daughter went, if something was missing, or if her brother was tired and taking a nap on the couch, oh, he must be using. Look at he's
right,
so cold. It was
right,
like no matter what he did,
right.
um, she had the mentality that he's never going to get clean, and it's a process. I mean, you have to get that trust back, and
Well,
she's still working
yeah,
on that.
right. Well, the other thing too is that what happens is that you get clean, you have good, you get time under your belt, you start feeling better, and then you stop prioritizing your recovery. And I know my own experience, every time that I stopped prioritizing my recovery, I was setting myself up for a relapse. And you don't even see it, you don't realize it. And then there comes a point in time where you have no defense
Hmm.
against picking up again. And I mean, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful every fucking day that I never killed anybody behind the wheel.
Yeah, yeah, and
Because
that channel I showed, Texas documentaries, there are some
yeah,
videos
I
there
saw,
on
yeah,
impaired, and
yeah,
impaired meaning either drinking and driving, distracted driving, texting,
right,
which they say texting or reading your phone while
sure.
driving is equivalent to drunk driving.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's probably nobody out there that's driven before that hasn't taken their eyes off the wheel for a minute and then maybe had a
Yeah,
close call of some
yeah,
sort.
yeah, I have
Sure,
with reading. Or no, I dropped my phone. I dropped my phone and thought
right?
1 second just to lean over and pick it up, and then I looked
Right.
up and there was a tree right in front of me.
Oh
In
my
the grace
God.
of God, I just turned the wheel and missed that tree by inches.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I told you this, but being in recovery, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories. And a real quick one is this woman started coming into meetings, and I learned that she had killed her best friend in a drunk driving accident when she was still in high school. So she did 20 years or so. She got out. She was sober. She had been clean, she had been sober the entire time that she was in prison, and had such a powerful story. And it was difficult. It's hard not to be judgmental. Uh, it really is. I mean, we're human. But, before you knew it, she wasn't showing up. It's like, oh, I haven't seen her around. Has anybody seen her? And sure enough, she was out drinking again.
Yeah, so Clarissa writes, I don't know if I pinned
Mm,
it, but before that, she said, I helped someone stay sober for 2 years. We all did. The one time that they were away from us, and now they are back in full addiction. It was very stressful. It also felt hurtful to me personally. I felt like all the hard work wasn't appreciated by that person. They'd gotten healthier. Now they don't care. But if you look at it as it is a disease, it's not that they don't care about themselves or anyone else. It's out of Black Eagle. You can probably explain it easier than I can.
Well, it's
But
cunning. It's, they say it's cunning, baffling, and powerful. And it is. Um, you know, um, and that's why if you're not in recovery, if you don't have a support system, if you're not working some sort of a program, the percentages of relapse is very high because all of us, when you're going to meetings every day and you have a sponsor and you're involved, it comes up. You naturally want to use, you want to pick up, you want to drink. That's just normal. But you talk about it and you share it with somebody. And 9 times out of 10, you're doing okay. What ends up happening is people stop going to meetings, they stop talking to
mhm.
people, they isolate, which is a huge part of addiction. Um, and then when that moment comes, when you're faced with picking up whatever the substance, you don't have a defense, and you pick up.
Right. So recovery is a lifelong process. It's not the minute you go to recovery and you've been clean for a year or
Right,
2 years or 20 years doesn't mean you're out
right,
of the woods. So it's not a matter of you can help somebody in recovery by being a support, but you can't live their recovery. You know what I mean? You can't. Um, you have
right,
to let go at some point and
right.
trust that they'll go to meetings, that they have a support system. You know,
Well, it makes, here's the part that is baffling, okay? Um, you know, prior to my last DUI, where I was completely in a complete blackout, don't recall buying alcohol, don't remember driving, don't remember anything. Um, prior to that, I had good, genuine, solid sobriety, and I would share my story, and it was the truth. And I meant every word that I said. And then after I picked up, I had to question myself. It's like, well, was all of that a bunch of bullshit? You know,
yeah.
do you know what like? I can tell when I watch a lot of recovery videos or things of that nature, and I can tell when somebody's talking out of their ass. I know my own. Uh,
Do you believe, Black Eagle? Let me ask you this. You know how in AA they give chips out
yeah,
for even one day
yep.
sober, a
I got
month,
a
a week, whatever, right?
right. Sure. Yep.
And then the person relapses. Do you think that the chips are a good idea? Because I remember when my son used to get them and he would relapse and he'd be looking at the chips and it was almost like, and do we count the days or do we count the blessings? You like,
Well, again, it's a double-edged sword sometimes. I can tell you the very first time that I celebrated 1 year of sobriety, okay? And my very best friend who had years and years and years of sobriety, who had been waiting for me to finally hit a bottom and reach out for help, she gave me my first year chip, my first year medallion. And I don't recall how much time was after that I said to her, Donna, I have to be honest with you. I had drank. I didn't deserve that 1 year chip. And she said to me, I know. I knew that you had been drinking. And I said, well, why did you do that? And she said, all I can do is pray for you and pray that you'll eventually get it. You know, that's why one of the things they say is keep coming back. If you drink, keep going. The thing is with the time and the sobriety, you feel guilt is a huge thing.
Yeah, because you're
And
looking at these chips that you've collected, and then
right.
when you
And then if you
relapse, do
and
people
then you
think,
feel
was it worth it, or it's just is it a reminder that
well,
no
there's
relapse is a failure unless you try, right? But do you think it's a reminder to those who have relapsed to look at those chips and think that they failed in some way?
well, all I can tell you is this. Um, you know, I had a good friend of mine who had given me a job in his kitchen. I love working in kitchens. And I had started drinking and I didn't think anybody knew. And he finally had to say, "Listen, I got to let you go." And I'm like, "Come on, you know, that was 2 weeks ago." He was like, "You know, we had just buried one of our other cooks who had a heroin overdose. The restaurant business is just rampant with addiction." But anyway, you know, I don't know. Um, I don't know. The bottom line, it comes down whether you get a chip or you get a, you know, get a cake or it doesn't matter. You know, you still got to get up the next day and not pick up whatever substance it is.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you're what they say is you're as sick as your secrets. And today, it's not that important for me to walk around telling everybody how sober I am. Um, because you can get caught up in your ego with that. It's about staying humble and knowing and being around enough to know. I've seen many people with many years of recovery pick up and die.
Yeah.
I knew one guy, he had 3 years of good sobriety. He was really active in the group. I had been out for a little bit, came back, and I said, you know, where's John? And they said he drank himself to death in 3 days. He had 3 years of sobriety. He got a couple of gallons and locked himself in his room, and in 3 days he was dead.
Yeah. It's so surreal. Like when I
Yeah.
would I go to an organization called Learn to Cope,
Hmm.
and they have online meetings as well now. They alternate. So certain days you can go in person, and then they have certain days you can do, and anyone online can go. You don't have
Right.
to be from New England. So um, this was before COVID started, but the difference with Learn to Cope is then that in Al-Anon was Learn to Cope actually gave we parents shared their stories and what they did, like gave resources. Whereas when I would go to Al-Anon was more focused on me, my recovery, as far as because it's a family disease, it affects everyone in the
Or
family.
yep.
So Learn to Cope is different, where um, someone might talk and say, I've done everything I can with my child. Um, I don't know what else to do. And another mom might say, we had our child section. We went to court, um, because you're a danger to yourself when you're using drugs like that. To get them into rehab or detox and off the street. But it's an excellent group. There's Narcan training. They provide Narcan if you don't have it. If you're there physically, you can get Narcan. I've given the training many times. And what was my point? Oh, so this was before COVID. So we would see these parents come in a lot, like all of us. Um, and sometimes they would bring their child with them, and their child would share their story. And then, like the following week or the week after, the parents weren't there. And then
Right.
somebody would announce that their child passed away. And it was like you could feel your heart drop on
Yeah.
the floor. It was because you got to know these parents, right? We all do. We bond.
Right.
And then you find out their child.
Right.
The way
Well, you know, what's really
broke
hard with
it.
my sister is that she's a very private person, period. Like she just lost her cat, who's, you know, was her everything. And you know, everybody is sort of bombarding her. Well, I know her well enough to know that right now the last thing she wants to, you know, when she's ready, she'll talk about it. You know, because we've been through this again when she lost her son. Um,
How long ago did she lose her son? A couple of years ago, right? 3?
yeah. Yep, right about that. Yeah.
And she still can't talk about it?
Um, she does. But I'll tell you, like, she was his stepmom, and one of the things that's been really difficult is that his mom will come down to the ocean and stay with my sister for a few days. And by the time that she leaves, my sister is just, I don't even know how to describe it. And she's like, I want to be there for her, but um, like it's too much. Like it's too much for my sister to have her because my sister is grieving just as maybe not as much as the mother, but pretty damn close. And you know, it, it's hard to navigate. It's hard to know what to do. And the thing is that my belief is that if you're coming from the heart, you can't do anything wrong. Um, and but the most important thing is that you've got to take care of yourself and know that your child or whoever it is, your significant whoever it is that has the disease of addiction, um, that you know that it's their journey, you know. But I mean, obviously, it affects everybody.
Yeah, and it's hard. You've got to find that balance because, like I said, I look back now and I know I was overbearing to my son, but didn't think I was because my mentality was I'm going to do everything to save your life,
Right.
you know. So I felt justified in being like on his case, not in a mean way. It wasn't like I was yelling at him, although there were actually a couple of times where
Sure.
I would get so frustrated and
Sure.
um,
Well,
I
you know what
remember
happens
like
is we
literally
have in our
dropping on my knees when we lived in Hawaii, dropping on my knees in front of the rehab, crying,
yeah,
saying, dropping him off, saying, "Please, God, just make this
yeah.
work." To other times, being a little angry and just out of desperation and
Well, what
saying, "Do you
happens, Pink?
understand? You will die from this." And
Well,
still, it wasn't enough at that time.
right. Well, what happens, okay, is that we feel that if we can give to them or say the right thing or show up or whatever we're frantic to think that we can make them choose sobriety. And I know that feeling. Like I can remember picking Aubrey up, and I remember picking her and a friend of hers up, just taking her out to breakfast, and thinking that once I got a hold of her, that I could get her to come home with me. And she just was like, "No, Mom," you know.
Yeah.
And for me to have to go and drop her off on a fucking corner.
Do you remember the conversations you and I used to have? I used to tell you, I'll drive up and we'll
Yeah,
kidnap her.
yeah,
I mean, we were both like, had that mentality. Like,
yeah,
Black Eagle is just a couple of states over. And I would be like, and we've met before. So I'm just like, okay,
yeah.
let's find her. We will literally kidnap her.
I will show you a photo one time where I don't know if I've shared this story with you where I was I was with Aubrey. I brought her to my sister's house. I finally got a hold of her. My sister's place is just gorgeous, right on the water. You go there, you put your slippers on and your bathrobe and your pajamas, and you just, I go there all the time and do that when I need to just get away. And, Sue and I were talking, and Aubrey was all tucked on the couch, and we had made her some tea and fed her. And I was just so happy to have her there. And Sue was telling me how she had just driven up to surprise Bryce about an hour away out of the blue. He was clean. He was a year clean. And 2 weeks later, he was dead.
Yeah.
So, I'm so glad that she was able to go and see him. You just, that feeling of, like I said, and I'm talking times where I know I've told you this, where I go and I get to the rehab and she's checked herself out. Or I find out she's in the ICU on a fucking ventilator, and I get up there and I'm not on the list to go and see her.
Yeah.
And that if I come back into that floor, I'm going to get escorted out by a cop. You want to talk about fucking helpless and angry, and times where I'd go. She was at this one sober living place. I went and I bought her all this stuff at the store, stuff moms buy, cream and makeup and
Yeah.
whatever, like a little care package. And I get there and I had just talked to her and she was gone. You want to talk about like a range of emotions. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I want to show, before I forget, hold on. Okay. This, I don't know if it's backwards or not. I don't think so. This is Narcan, okay? For anybody who has a loved one struggling with substance use, for anyone who is on an opioid, a narcotic, for pain management, that you're not struggling with substance use, but and I believe in my state, it's the law that if any doctor prescribes an opioid for like people on long-term pain management, they have to have this in their home. Okay, what this does is when someone's in an overdose, okay, this reverses the effect of an overdose. Attaches to the opioid receptors, and the narcotic, like on the receptor. Trying to do it in layman's term. It falls off of the receptors, the opioid, okay?
Right.
Reverses the effect of an overdose, okay? So this is the package, okay? These are available at pharmacies. There have been recent talks that is hopefully this springtime, this will be available over the counter, that you don't have to go up to the pharmacist and ask for it, because they're finding that there's still a lot of stigma, that a lot of people who say that has a child or a loved one struggling, they don't want to go to the pharmacist because they fear stigma. That, so they're hoping by spring, all they're waiting is for the FDA to approve it. And by springtime, hopefully you'll find this over the counter, that you can just buy it and even check out. Even CVS has self-checkout now, so you don't even have to bring it up to a clerk. Okay. I would recommend, especially when it becomes available over the counter, to get more than one box, because they're finding with the fentanyl that it takes more than two, and two come in these boxes. Okay.
I've watched these documentaries online or these channels that I go to where you see them on the streets and they're Narcan. And then there's one guy who does these videos, drove around the block an hour later, and that person that had just been Narcan was
Yeah,
shooting up again.
right.
It's like,
So
wow.
with those who from the fentanyl overdose, which most are fentanyl now, okay, that
Right.
causes the overdoses, and they refer to it as fentanyl poisoning. So if you hear fentanyl poisoning or fentanyl injury, same thing, okay. They're calling it injury and poisoning because a lot of the people who are using these drugs are not aware that there's fentanyl in the drugs. But I'll tell you right now, if you're going to talk to anyone, they're in everything.
Do you
They're
think, I think
not even
nowadays
talking.
everyone pretty much,
Yeah,
from what I've seen, a lot of they all know that it's fentanyl. They know that they're not getting straight heroin anymore.
right.
And you know, you see them with sores all over their body, they're shooting up. It's like,
Yeah. So these come with dog tags on the corner, right? If you find someone unresponsive, you call 911 immediately. Or if you're with somebody, you have the other person call 911. All you do is tear this down, okay? Comes with an insert, but educate yourself prior so you know how to use it, okay? One dose, okay? And it comes with a spring plunger. You don't have to take anything off the top or the bottom. It's all set to go. There's a hole on top. You put it in the nose. It's far up, at least halfway, if not more, up their nose, and you click this, and you'll hear a pop, and it's a spray. It comes out in a spray. Okay, you wait 3 minutes, and if they don't come to, then you would do the same thing. You'd open the second one. You can either put it up the same nostril or the other nostril. It doesn't matter. Okay, you always want to keep this in your home. I carry mine in my purse. Do not leave it in your car because the extreme temperatures from cold to hot can affect the medicine and it won't work as well. But they're finding that people who are overdosing on fentanyl need 4 to 5 of these before
oh
they
my
come
God.
to. If you're at home and your loved one comes to, don't think they're safe. They're out of an overdose because oftentimes they can go right back into an overdose. So you always want to call 911. And
See
yeah, when they get to
the
the
difference
ER,
with people, go ahead.
when they get to the ER, they think they're okay and they want to leave, but the reason why they're kept overnight is because they can go back even without another Narcan. Say you gave them 2, 3, 4 Narcans and they're conscious, alert, they can still go into an overdose an hour later, 2 hours later. So that's why they have to stay at the ER and be observed.
Well, see, a lot of times on the streets where I've watched these things, they don't take them in. You know, they leave them right there. They revive them.
That's
They
crazy.
and but you know,
Why
I don't
wouldn't
know
they
if you've
take them
seen
in?
it. Have you seen any of those videos about Kensington in down in Philly?
No, I've heard of it.
Oh my God, it's go look it up. Look up some of that. The
Always check
cops
the
are on the
expiration date as well. Okay, always check the expiration date. It's on this, and it's also on the box, on the
How
top of
much is
the
it to buy that?
box. I know I'm not sure. I know the cost of it has gone down. I get mine free. Um, I got this one free at National Drug Overdose Awareness Day. I went to an event which they're held nationwide, and they had them there to give out, so it didn't cost me anything. Um, a lot of your insurance will cover it, so whatever your copayment is, I believe insurance covers it, but check with your insurance company. But
It's
if
pretty
anybody's
amazing, Pink,
having trouble
that you're
covering,
out there. You're a
if anyone's
warrior.
having trouble covering the cost, just shoot me an email, okay, and we'll help you out.
You are a blessing. You are a blessing.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you're because you never know, people out there in the chat, you never know when this information will come
Yeah.
in handy.
Yeah, 4 to 5. 4 to 5. 2 is not enough. So again, if you see, and if you don't know if it's a drug overdose, say you come upon a person on the street, if you give this and it's not a drug overdose, it will not hurt them. So you can still administer it. You
Wow.
won't get sued. You're protected by the Good Samaritan law. At least in the United States, you are. So when in doubt, still give it.
See, I always think that I'd never be able, like I feel like I just don't have the temperament with a lot of things like that. But I know that if and when I came upon a situation like that, I would know what to do. It's like even like with my kids with the EpiPen, when I had to learn that
You'll be surprised when
yeah,
when you're in that situation.
right.
Your adrenaline kicks in.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's an opioid antagonist, stored at room temperature. Um, always check the expiration date. And again, you can read up on it. The FDA, we're just waiting for approval for this to be available over the counter. So you can go to pharmacies and just not have to speak to anyone. Use self-checkout. And if you have other people at home, watch some training on YouTube on Narcan. If you've got other people living in the home, train them, show them where it is. Always keep it in the same spot. And if you have to use it, always replace it immediately as soon as you can. But as soon as they're available over the counter, I'm buying more because, like I said, the fentanyl 2 is not enough. And yeah, the EMTs and the police have it on them, but we're talking,
Have you ever had to
breathing
use it?
without oxygen, huh?
Have you ever had to use it?
Yes. Used it on my own son.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, know that.
Nothing worse than breathing life into your own child and having to use this. And I'm telling you, when you think like, oh, if this happened to me, I don't think I could do it.
Right.
It was amazing. It was that adrenaline, and it was like I wasn't his parent at that time. I felt like I'm going to be your savior. I'm going to do, and it wasn't because I'm a nurse and I went into nurse mode. When you're faced with a life and death, it's amazing,
Right.
just what you're capable of doing to save your child.
Right. Well,
So,
I wish more. I was watching a documentary the other day where a woman was pregnant, shooting heroin, so nonchalant about everything. Already had 2 or 3 kids taken from her.
hi,
And
Amelia. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying, just I don't know.
Amelia asked, how does it work if they aren't breathing? Well, hopefully you find them in time. So what happens is the opioids attach to the receptors in the brain that regulate breathing. The brain tells your lungs to breathe. With an overdose, that part of the brain shuts down, so you lose communication between the brain and the rest of your body, right? So if it's soon enough, when you spray the Narcan, it removes the opioid off of the receptors in the brain that control that is telling the brain, I don't know how to breathe anymore. So once this medicine, the Narcan, takes away the opioid that's landed on the breathing receptor of the brain, and it gets their brain to tell their body to breathe again. But time is everything. So, and then obviously, if they're not breathing, you would also want to start CPR. So you would,
Listen, I'm
I
at
remember, I
3%.
recall just using the Narcan. I only had 2 of them. Calling 911, putting the phone down, and starting CPR.
My God.
Yeah. But he was in my home. It was one of those nights, gotta check, gotta check, gotta check. I mean, whenever he would be at my house sleeping, I was always awake. There was no
Right.
way I could sleep. No way. Because of that fear. And I remember having a cup of tea in my hand and just peeking in his room. And I dropped the tea and I knew where the Narcan was. So important, and if you forget, put it in your cell phone and under your notepad where you put that Narcan. So you're not running around looking for it.
Wow. Welcome to the new millennium. Jesus. But
Yeah, it's absorbed through the mucous membranes. So it's the nose. You never want to put it in the mouth. It goes directly up through the nose. It used to, when it first came out, it was a shot. It was an injection. But they found that it was taking too long because by the time you had to put the syringe on, um, and they came out with the nasal spray. It's just as effective as, I don't know if the EMTs carry. I don't think they carry the injectable. They maybe they do, but I remember seeing the sprays that they used on my son. And then when he came to, he was like, "No, I'm fine." I said, "You had no pulse." "No, I didn't." "No, I did. I did have a pulse. I'm fine." You know, they had no clue.
Wow. It's powerful.
Yeah, Jennifer McDonald. Yeah, those videos where the police touched it. And when those first came out, people were saying, "No, that's fake. That's fake." No, that can actually happen because it gets absorbed through your skin. So, if you find a pill on the ground and you don't know where it came from, wear a glove or pick it up with a tissue and dispose of it.
Well,
Don't
I
flush it
think
down
I
the
used to think
toilet.
about the
Don't flush it down the
conversations.
toilet. Put it in water and soap with some Dawn soap. Let it dissolve and then throw it in the trash. Because throwing it down the toilet or the sink goes into your water system. Um, and they're finding trace amounts of medications, whether it's opioids, cardiac meds, in water that people are drinking. There has to be some place in the country that has no drugs. In this country? No, not in our country. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Even it doesn't discriminate. It's everywhere. Even there are, doctors
You'd
and
be shocked. You
lawyers
would
who are
exactly. You would be
struggling with
shocked.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, you would be shocked how many people that you know, that you would never think. I remember having teachers that would come to school hammered. That's the old days. Nowadays, everybody's on Adderall or whatever.
Oh,
Hey, listen, I'm
God.
gonna jump off because I'm at the 2%.
Yeah, and I've got to
Yeah.
jump off because I've got work tomorrow. So this was
Hey,
great. We got to do it again.
anytime. I'm always up for the conversation.
Yeah, if anyone, let me put my email in. Uh,
Hey, I just want to say much love and light to everyone.
Thank you. You too, Black Eagle.
All right, much love. Bye,
All
everybody.
right, talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right, that's my email. So if anyone, feel free to reach out if you need someone to talk to. Also, if you need resources, it doesn't matter where you live in the United States. If you live in another country, I can certainly help you search for resources. Um, say you live in California, don't think that you have your loved one or you, whoever is struggling with substance use disorder, has to stay in California. We have a program here in New England called called Angel Program, and what we do is wherever we can find a bed for detox rehab, and it could be, so I'm in Massachusetts, so say there's a bed available in Wisconsin. What we do is we get angels, we're volunteers, and we stay with the person until they board their plane. It's to keep them safe. It's to support them during this process. And wherever there's a bed, and if you don't have insurance, there are a lot of places that it's called free care beds. And a lot of places have them and what they do is they try, at least in Massachusetts, they get you on insurance through Medicaid. So even if you're coming in from out of state to Massachusetts, we can get you on the health insurance, which is an excellent health insurance in Massachusetts. It's called Mass Health, and it's Medicaid. So don't let that deter you or your loved one from seeking help, because if you have no insurance, or again, if there's a bed anywhere in the country, there are ways to get your loved one there. Thanks, Heads Up 7-Up. So does anyone have any questions? Again, get Narcan right now. You can go to your pharmacist. I don't believe you need a prescription anymore. You can, but ask your pharmacist, and don't be ashamed. People want to help, and so ask them, that you'd like and if you're too ashamed to say it out loud, just write it on a note and hand it to the pharmacist, or go to the consultation area where you have more privacy and speak to the pharmacist. And you'll have to ask them what the price is. I would say it's under $30. It's definitely under $30. And again, hopefully this spring it will be available over the counter once the FDA approves it. So that's good news, But please, keep it on hand. Remember where you put it. And even if you're on long-term pain management, you should also have it in your house for accidental overdoses, because you never know if it's mixed with something, or some people might forget they took a pain medication and take it again. You just don't know. You don't know. So it's good. It's good to have it. Literally saves lives. Literally, it does. So thanks, everyone. Jamie, thank you. Jenny. Jennifer McDonald. Amelia, it's so good to see you. How have you been? London, Black Eagle, Lee, Clarissa. My crazy life. Reach out to me, okay? I'll be around Sunday. I'll be available if you want to talk. But reach out to me sooner, and I'll give you my information, okay? All right. Be good, and take care, everyone. Thanks for coming. It was a great live stream. I'm glad I went live. Good night, everyone.